Definitely. Okay. All right. Everyone, thank you so much for being here today. I'm super happy to be here with you too, Danielle. Thank you. Just as a high-level overview, today we're going to be meeting with Danielle Goldman of the Build Fellowship, and the Build Fellowship is one of the most highly reputable companies helping foreign nationals with non-immigrant sponsorship related to H-1B Cap-exempt cases that I know of. And so super happy to have her here. And I'm going to go over a brief presentation with you guys on how to pursue this option and just more information about it.
Amazing. Thank you, Jacob. I'm so happy to be here, and I hope we can be supportive of your clients and continue to build partnership as we go. For those who don't know me, my name is Danielle. I am co-founder and CEO of the Build Fellowship. For the last 6 years, I have been running Open Avenues Foundation's Build Fellowship program, which is a Cap-exempt H-1B employment opportunity for folks to work. And if they lose the lottery, and many of you might be here because you were not selected in the H-1B lottery or are looking for alternate pathways for a work visa, the Cap-exempt H-1B solution is a great alternative. And I'm so thrilled to be here today to chat with you about this unique visa pathway. A little bit more background. I actually am the daughter of an immigration lawyer. So I grew up memorizing the alphabet soup of immigration and understanding what an O1 and H-1B were at a very, very young age. So I co-founded Open Avenues Foundation and this Build Fellowship program with my father about 6 or 7 years ago. And that was because we both, as a family, we believe in creating these pathways and employment opportunities for talented individuals to thrive in the United States and build careers here. And so that's what drives us every day. And I'm really excited to talk to you more about what we are doing and what we have built and how this could be an option for you. So the immigration problem that we're going to talk about is the restrictive H-1B lottery. I'm sure many of you know who are on the call today that the H-1B is capped every single year at 85,000 individuals who are entered, hundreds of thousands of individuals are entered into a randomized annual selection process. It's fluctuated in terms of how many registrants every year entered into this lottery. But this past year, we saw about a 30% selection rate in March. That's, about where this year landed. This is after adjustments were made to try to reduce fraud and duplication of multiple registrations into this lottery system. But the reality is that the 85,000 number is set by Congress and most likely won't change anytime soon. It requires Congress to make legislative change, which, as we know, in the immigration world, doesn't happen quickly and doesn't happen often. And so this is the lottery system we're working with. And the H-1B happens to be the most common work visa in the United States because to qualify, you need the baseline criteria is that you have at least a bachelor's degree in the field in which you work. And for many folks on the call, you have a bachelor's degree or an equivalent of a bachelor's degree based on your work experience, and you want to work for a US company and with leveraging that degree. So an H-1B works in those scenarios. It's not the only work visa that is available to folks, and there are quite a few that folks should consider if you're thinking about what your pathway is after you go to school in the US or you want to enter the US to work here temporarily while you wait for a green card or think about green card options. But just to name a few, if you are not selected in this lottery that is at 30% annually, then you might consider a few of these options on the screen here. And Jacob is the expert here, so if there's questions on some of these categories, he can absolutely answer them in our Q&A. But just to go over a few, if you are entered into the lottery system and you were not selected, perhaps you qualify for an O1 extraordinary ability visa and you meet 3 of 8 requirements that prove that you are extraordinary within your field. A few of those requirements could be that you are a judge of others' work within the field, or you've been published in your field. You can easily look up those requirements. I'm sure Jacob is doing analyses of these cases all the time. So you should potentially consider that O1. For an L1, if you work for a multinational company or you go abroad and work for your company for 1 year, you can re-enter if you've been a manager into the United States on an L1 visa. If you're from Canada or Mexico and you're working mostly in a STEM profession, a TN could be a good solution for you. If you want to go back to school, there is the option of F1 CPT if you want to go get another master's degree. But the reality is some of those programs have been seen as fraudulent in the past. So if you're going to go the F1 CPT route, you better make sure that it's a reputable program and a legitimate way to get this CPT status. I'm sure Jacob could name a few other options, including the E2 investor visa. If you're from an E2 treaty country, could put that one on here. But the reality is these are some of the main categories of what folks could consider if you are not selected in the lottery. The other option that we're here today to talk about is a Cap-exempt H-1B. In the United States, there are 4 types of organizations that Congress deemed are exempt from the H-1B lottery cap and can sponsor H-1B visas at any time of year. This is awesome if you work for one of these 4 types of organizations, including universities, government research organizations, nonprofit research organizations, or nonprofits affiliated with a university. Okay, so it's great. If anyone on the call works for one of these organizations, amazing. You actually don't need to enter the lottery, and Jacob can work with you on a Cap-exempt H-1B for your full-time employment. But let's say all of you on the call work for a biotech company, or maybe you work for your own startup company, or you work for a tech company. How can you leverage the Cap-exempt H-1B to continue to work for your company? And the answer is that is concurrent employment. If you work part-time for one of these 4 types of organizations, then any US employer is able to sponsor a concurrent full-time H-1B outside of the lottery cycle and system for you as well. So let's say you work 5 hours per week for a university and you get sponsored for a Cap-exempt H-1B, then any company can file a full-time visa for you that's Cap-exempt in H-1B. Now, finding these positions part-time is challenging. So let's say you're at Amazon and you're working full-time and you need a visa solution and you want to go work for a university part-time because you want a Cap-exempt H-1B and you want to stay working at Amazon, finding a part-time role can be challenging. So Jeff Goldman, my father, and I came together and said, let's start a Cap-exempt organization that provides part-time employment opportunities for foreign nationals to work 5 hours a week for one of these Cap-exempt entities and allows individuals to go get these concurrent H-1Bs from any company in the US. So we started Open Avenues Foundation's Build Fellowship Program in 2017. And the program is we are a nonprofit affiliated with universities. So we can sponsor individuals for part-time positions within our organization, allowing anyone to file a concurrent Cap-exempt H-1B for our fellows. So this is what the Build Fellowship is. It's a part-time Cap-exempt H-1B role that allows individuals to work full-time. So we have individuals who are qualified for H-1Bs apply for our Build Fellowship program. You can apply for yourself, or you can nominate yourself for the program, or you could have your employer. Maybe it's your biotech company, maybe it's your own company, nominate you for the fellowship program. Then we sponsor a part-time 5-hour per week fellowship for you, where we sponsor the Cap-exempt H-1B. That then opens the door for our Build Fellows to go work full-time for any employer, and Jacob or whoever your attorney is can file the full-time Cap-exempt H-1B for your employer. Again, any time of year, which is really important when we're working with the infrastructure of this immigration system where this can only happen annually right now, once a year in March. So this is the program itself. To be eligible for the fellowship, we look for a minimum of a bachelor's degree. Again, this is very much mirroring the H-1B qualifications. Have to have at least a bachelor's degree or equivalent work experience. We're looking for 2 years of work experience, ideally in this related field, because for 5 hours per week, our fellows work with students at our partner schools to train our future workforce, to train students within your field. And I'll explain more about that fellowship and what the 5 hours per week is in 1 minute. But we are looking for individuals who are interested in mentoring, interested in working with students, and someone, whether it's a company that you work for or a company in your network, must pay for the fellowship program for you. So we are looking timeline-wise at about 2 to 3 weeks to evaluate someone for this fellowship, 6 to 8 weeks to get an approval on a fellowship, and about 1 week between us getting an approval and someone and your concurrent employer filing this full-time petition for you. So you can not only work 5 hours a week for us, but also work full-time for your company that you want to be working for, as the full-time employer. We have a few of these fellowships set up. So our fellows actually will get placed at one of these 3 programs that we run. Some of them are for founders specifically, others are for anyone. Open Avenues Foundation is our biggest nonprofit partner, and we run the Build Fellowship at all 3 of these. So for 5 hours a week, our Build Fellows work within their field of expertise. So if you're on the call today and you are a software developer, you could apply for a fellowship position in software development, and you work as a software developer for 5 hours a week, leading students in software development projects. If you are a molecular biologist, you would spend 5 hours a week leading students in molecular biology projects. All of this is related to the field in which you work. And that's a requirement for H-1B. You have to work in the field in which you are trained, in which you have a degree. So we create these fellowship positions for you based on your degree, based on the work that you do at your company and know how to do. So here's some examples of the projects that we've launched. These are real industry work experiences that we give to our partner colleges and universities. This is what makes us Cap exempt, is that we are a nonprofit that offers these educational programs to our university partners. So these are some of the companies that have projects launched. Spark Capital, for instance, is a venture capital company, and they have Hansel is a project leader. Hansel is one of our fellows leading an analysis project for a startup company to actually, see what the market data is and do this and put this presentation together to see if the VC would invest in this startup. That's an example of a project that one of our fellows might launch for students. And for Hansel, for 5 hours a week, she's actually leading these projects that she's an expert. She's a venture capitalist. So she's leading students through these projects from our partner schools. And she gets a lot out of that, right? It's not just 5 hours a week of going back and, doing school, which is what you're doing in CPT. You're actually the leader. Hansel is teaching others, is mentoring others. And so that's what the fellowship really is at its core. We have had 200 fellows sponsored through this program with a 99% success rate. So it's a really exciting opportunity to have some security in feeling like that this is going to work. Of course, Jacob knows this better than anyone. Nothing in immigration is guaranteed, but certainly if you're seeing a 99% success rate, that feels really good in the world of immigration. And it's a great solution for if you're looking for some of that security. We have 13 colleges and universities that our nonprofits are partnered with. So the fellows are offering those projects to students at 13 schools right now. And those students, we've trained more than 1,000 students through these projects. So we're really working on actually training up the future US workforce, not just having foreign nationals stay here, but really how can we also show as an organization that when foreign nationals stay in the United States, we're also creating opportunities for American students to get these jobs and thrive. So that's part of our mission, is demonstrating that whole win-win solution here. And students are more prepared for their careers, which is a huge outcome for us to be able to demonstrate. So how do you do this? The reality is that you, as foreign nationals, if you're here on the call, you can't pay for your own fellowship program because you can't pay for your own H-1B. H-1Bs are an employer. It must be paid for by an employer, specifically the filing fees. That's a Department of Labor regulation. And so foreign nationals do not pay us for this fellowship program. But when you are employed by the Build Fellowship, a company that you want to work for can contract with us, nominate you for our fellowship, and pay for the fellowship program. So in option A, we employ you for 5 hours a week, and your company will file a full-time visa for the remainder of your time. This is a $4,000 a month program for as long as you need to stay in the program. 1,000 of that actually is your salary. So it's going right to your salary, and the company will actually reduce the salary by that amount that they pay you directly. So it's really a $3,000 a month cost for the company. And that's how we pay for the legal fees, and we pay for the program, and that's ongoing for at least 1 year. And then the other option is, if the company doesn't want to deal with the immigration at all, they can actually have us hire you full time. And we have the company actually pays us to manage the employment, and it's your salary plus the $75 an hour through a staffing model. So these are the two options we can discuss with your employer if they're interested in chatting with us about these options. We've worked with some pretty exciting companies, including Otter AI, The Boring Company, Hopper, CRISPR Therapeutics. These are a variety of tech companies, of startup companies. These are some of our larger partners, but we've also worked with founders who are looking to start their own companies and have recently received funding and want to get a Cap-exempt H-1B. So these are our 12 colleges and universities. If you launch projects through the fellowship program, you launch them for students at these colleges and universities. And this is, again, how we are Cap exempt. And I want to note that for the fellows in our program, this is not just a visa solution. It really is a program where you gain a lot of leadership experience. You're leading these students through projects. It's really, feels good to be able to teach our future generation, our future workforce about your field. And so it's a really cool program in that way. Ketki works for Foghorn Therapeutics, went through our program as a biotech professional and biotech fellow. And she said this program really helped her with her management and leadership skills. Mason is a founder of a company. He put a fellow through this program and said, and he, for example, might be one of your employers, and he said that this was just an awesome solution for him to keep his top talent. He actually, Telegram did this for their CTO. So their CTO came through this program, did our fellowship, and he then won the lottery the next year. That's how you can exit our program, if you win the lottery, if you get a green card approved. So these are just ways in which you get into the fellowship, and you can also leave the fellowship once you have another option to move forward. So if you want to contact me, if you want to get in touch and chat more about the fellowship and explore this for yourself or for any of your employees, you can reach me directly at Danielle@buildfellowship.com. But for now, I'll stop there, and we can chat through any questions that folks have. We have it's a pretty intimate group today, so I'm really happy because we can take any questions that you have. If you raise your hand, I can take you off mute, or you can put them right into the Q&A that's below.
Thanks again for everything you just shared, Danielle. Yeah, again, anybody who has any questions about anything that Danielle shared or anything tangentially related, please feel free to let us know.
Okay, we have something in the Q&A about O1 visa sponsorship. I do have a pretty exciting announcement about this, but Jacob, if you want to take just maybe like a minute to talk about O1 and how that typically works with sponsorship, and then I can chat more about what we're offering too.
Yeah, certainly. So I will say for our clients, we usually see one of two things. One is just traditional direct employer. We're assuming that the foreign national meets at least 3 of the 8 regulatory requirements to qualify for the O. Just the company you plan on working for just sponsors you directly. The second most common scenario that we see is where there's essentially an agent, a company who acts as a facilitator in setting the foreign national up with different employment opportunities from there related to their field. So I will say usually most common scenario is number one, but particularly for our athletes or consultants or some medical professionals, even we have them, or artists or YouTubers, we have a lot of them go through this agent styled sponsorship instead. But I'd love to hear your announcement too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So I'm glad you brought up the agent sponsorship, because we actually are launching this week a new program called Build Extraordinary. And it's we have become an O1 agent. And so we will be opening new programming for folks to actually sign up for our agent services, meaning we are the employer for the O1. And we will, facilitate this employment. It does require that you have in our program, it requires that you have an employer. We don't set up an employer to actually go leverage your O1 and go work full time. We're not doing that, but we will sponsor the O1. So we are offering O1 agent services to other employers or to individuals directly that want that.
That's awesome.
So and Jacob, we should definitely talk offline a little bit about that too. Could be interesting
Sure.
for us to partner on. Siddharth asked another question. According to my understanding, I need an employer to enroll in the fellowship. So let's just talk about that. The most common scenario is that you have an employer that is going to nominate you and pay for this fellowship program. We have one more scenario that I'll talk through, which is that if you have an entity that you have set up, it could be that you have a consulting company that you set up in the US, or maybe you have a family office, or you have some entity that can contract with the Build Fellowship and pay us for this program for you, then absolutely we can facilitate this fellowship program. What we cannot do is you as an individual cannot pay for this fellowship program, because you can't directly pay for your own H-1B. So individuals can have their own another entity nominate them and pay for this program, even if it's just 5 hours a week of employment, which could enable you to go find another employer to do the concurrent visa. So that is another option. So if you have an entity that could partner with us, then you can nominate yourself for this program.
That's a great question. I'm curious to hear your feedback on this, Danielle. I feel like that's been a growing trend with people owning part or all of their own companies and then going about and doing this sort of sponsorship that way with the H's. Have you seen something like that? Yeah.
Absolutely. Tons of startup founders are doing this and sponsoring themselves. The new H-1B rule makes it a little bit easier for folks to do that type of self-sponsorship, if you will. But there's no doubt that we're now working with tons of individuals who have been laid off or are looking for employment and want a Cap-exempt H-1B to stay in the US and to go find an employer that's willing to do a concurrent H-1B. And in those scenarios, what we're looking at are folks setting up companies might not even be the sponsor. We're going to be the sponsor, but they're going to be able to pay us through that entity. We don't sponsor green cards through our organization. No. So it would require you to have another employer that is going to sponsor that green card and long-term solution for you.
Question.
Good question. Anybody else have a question? I flew through that presentation, but I'm going to drop my, there's got one more. If the other employer sponsors the green card, but the priority date is not current, how would that work? Jacob, do you want to try to take that?
Absolutely. So as a high level overview, one of the main benefits, or one of the problems I will say with green card sponsorship right now, are the delay in processing from the visa bulletin, right? You're waiting a long time, even for people who are not Indian or Chinese nationality, they're still waiting a long time for priority dates to become current through PERM. And so one of the main benefits of the Build Fellowship, or having an H-1B in general, is that you can maintain your non-immigrant status here, maintain work authorization while you wait for the green card process to be ongoing. So in this particular question, if your priority date's not current, you're being sponsored through PERM, and you want to remain in the US, you should, and probably you will want to have a non-immigrant visa like an H-1B, so that you can live and work here while you wait for that GC to process.
Awesome. Cool. Harish, we will send more information about the fellowship program after this to anyone who registered. So we're going to send the recording, and then we also have more info. If you go to our website, I'll also type it in here, www.buildfellowship.com. There's a ton of information on there. We have a whole resource page where you can learn all about Cap-exempt H-1Bs. You can watch videos. We have recordings. We have handouts. So that's really helpful, I believe. And someone just asked what the pricing is. It's $4,000 a month, or you can do a model where you're an employee full-time with an employer if they are interested, and they'll pay us your salary plus $75 an hour, and we'll just facilitate the entire process from start to finish for full-time employment for Cap-exempt H-1B. So that's another option. But for the most part, most folks are doing this $4,000 a month option. And again, a portion of that is actually your salary. So the company reduces your salary by that amount. And so it's not just a $4,000 cost to them. It's really a $3,000 a month cost to them. So we can talk more about that if you're interested in learning more. Someone asked about the extraordinary agent program. I will definitely, we haven't launched yet, so we're still finalizing a little bit this week, and then we will be launching hopefully by the end of the week. But the idea here is that, you either have an employer that is going to sponsor your O1 directly, or perhaps, and Jacob mentioned this, there's a lot of folks that don't want to be tied to one employer, but want the O1 to continue to work within their field for multiple employers, or have the freedom to work for any employer they want within that field. So if you are a scientist and you want to work for many different labs, and maybe you're consulting for different labs, and you want to hold your O1 outside of one lab, then an agent could be a great solution for you. If you're an athlete and you want to work for many, have the flexibility to get your O1 and be on different teams and not just tied to one team, an agent could be a great solution for you, and is a very common solution. So Build Extraordinary is offering this agent solution for individuals who want to get sponsorship through this Build Extraordinary program. We also will work with employers that don't want to deal with the O1 sponsorship and would like to outsource this entire immigration process. So we'll do the O1s through our agent services for employers that don't want to deal with the immigration solution in general. And there's plenty of them. So Jacob, is that typically, when do you see folks work with an agent usually?
Yeah, I would say that exact those two scenarios, and so yeah, a huge portion of them are just employers who don't want to deal with it. Can understand that. And then the other one is just when you want to take advantage of multiple employment opportunities. So yeah, I'm super excited. I'm glad we got some early access information there. That's
Totally. Totally. Cool. Anyone else have any questions before we hop? Awesome. Okay. So I am going to definitely send out more information about this fellowship and the recording of this. And we will, make sure that all of you here and folks who weren't able to join, maybe tuning in later, have access to all of our materials. We do information sessions once a month. So I have lots of recordings of perhaps even more detailed, strategies for founders and et cetera, but really excited to be here specifically with Jacob. I have a feeling we're going to be doing many of these together where we file for folks in the Build Fellowship and Jacob files a full-time visa for employers who are looking for this solution to retain their talent. And hopefully working on some O1s together as well through this agent services, but really excited to be in this network here. Jacob's amazing, and I'm sure you all have enjoyed working with him, or I certainly look forward to collaborating as a group here. So thank you all so much for tuning in, and we will be in touch. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Danielle. We appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Thanks, Jacob. Take
Yeah.
care. Bye.